Hi, my name is Kay Sutha. I am a business strategist and I will be your host. In this podcast, I'll be getting raw, real, and relentless whilst interviewing successful entrepreneurs from all over the world who specialize in different aspects of business. We'll cover the 5 main pillars of business, which are sales, marketing, finance, operations, and leadership, but not forgetting mindset, live and digital events, plus much, much more. You will gain insights, tips and tricks, and discover jaw-dropping actionable steps that you will be able to put in place for your business right away. Guys, today our guest lost everything in July, August of 2020 during the pandemic. He had to close his business, he had to file for bankruptcy, and he had to rebuild his business from scratch. Since he has been hired by influential companies like Harley Davidson, Pantene, Bud Light, Nerf, and many others. When pivoting last year, Dan drew on his extensive storytelling development and video production knowledge and created 1 Minute Media. In the face of the pandemic, he wanted entrepreneurs and startups to be able to create their own professional level videos, with, of course, a little help from him, for their companies and learn to tell great stories through videos. He now works directly with startups and entrepreneurs, offers coursework and private membership so they can choose a direct approach or a more DIY approach to learn these super valuable skills. He is here today to encourage you to accept that we are all great storytellers and that video is an amazing vehicle to take those stories where they need to go. Please welcome everyone, the amazing Dan Bennett, founder of 1 Minute Media. Welcome, Dan.
Wow, thank you. I think I can go take a nap. Show's over. That's all of it.
Oh, no, that's just like, a little molecule of what you have to offer people. I've spoken to you. I know this already, right? And so this is why I decided to have you on the show. Like, it was a must. When you told me your journey, your experiences, and where you're at now, is something that everyone can relate to. And it was basically a no-brainer, right? So many people have actually been affected themselves, their business during the pandemic, just like you. But guess what? There was a light at the end of the tunnel for you and you made it work for you, right? And so because of that, I really, really, really would appreciate if you could tell our audience a little bit about what you were doing before and how you decided to start this new business up for yourself during the pandemic.
Yeah. So before I ended up somewhere I didn't want to be. And that was kind of an agency model. And that happened because we would set out to tell great stories for companies. And then they'd be like, hey, you guys are really good at this digital stuff. Will you create some social media content for us? And we're like, yeah, sure. And then they're like, hey, that content's great. You want to manage it for us monthly? And it's like, yeah. And it ended up being all these retainer clients. We had a lot of growth. It looked sexy from the outside, very cool. A lot of great stories too. I'm not downing all of it. But hindsight's 2020. And then losing everything last year was the best thing that ever could have happened to me because it took me off that journey of where I didn't want to go and gave me some space to go, okay, what do I want to do?
Okay, I see. And you know what? The fact that you have a different perspective to the pandemic and you realize that what you've lost was actually the highlight and the best thing that could have ever happened to you, it is completely different to what people are really experiencing and thinking right now, right? And I'm assuming it was that kind of thinking, that perspective that really pushed you to do the next step where you should be, your next chapter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I lovingly refer to it as the great Band-Aid rip of 2020. It's one of those things where it's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but if you rip it really slow, it can be really terrible.
Yes.
And yeah, 1 Minute Media was something that I was doing in real life already. And
Right.
the shutdown gave me an opportunity to take that into the digital world and build that out for people.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, video is so important. If anything, if the pandemic has taught us anything, everything has gone digital now. Most things have. And videos are highly important when it comes to going digital. This is how people are going to meet you, find out what you're doing, what your business is, and figure out whether you are the person that they really want to work with, right? And so I heard, Dan, through the grapevine, that you have the ability to make the invisible visible. Now, don't get me wrong, but that sounds like a magic trick there. What does that really mean? You got to tell us more.
Yeah, I kind of look at that old agency model that was, like I said, accidental as a little bit of a horizontal line. And at one end was all the technical, the final delivery, the video, the editing, all the stuff.
Right.
And at the other end was story development and the things I really cared about. And as I started to try and either hire out or put a system in place for all the things that were technical and I didn't love so much and get closer and closer to that beginning point, I was speaking with someone and they're like, story is super important. The development you do is super important, but that's not actually the point at the end of your line. And I was like, well, what's that mean? I felt challenged, but I felt excited at the same time. And through their observation, they're like, no, what you actually do is make the invisible visible. You dig into people, you pull story out. And the way that you explain how you do it often makes me think like no one would have ever seen it had you not done the work you did. And it just brought me back to how many times I've sat in a room with a person and gotten to a point to where they looked at what we had done together and said, wow, that's magic. You're so good. And I went, no, it was in there all along. All I did was pull it out. I didn't create it. I didn't invent it. All I did was pull it out of you and shine a light on it. And that hit me so hard when she said that, because I'm like, oh, that is kind of what I do. And it sounds a little foo-foo and a little fluffy, but it truly is what I do before I meet someone. And after I meet something, I definitely bring as much as I can to light that maybe no one did before.
Amazing. So it's almost like you can read between the lines, right?
100%.
You're hearing what's on the surface, but you know to dig a little bit deeper and just pull that out of them, right? And I love that, because I find that people are very hesitant to be forthcoming with information to begin with, right? And the fact that you're using videos and you have this canny ability to do all of these things, it just seems like it fits, right? It fits all together. And so what really qualifies you as an expert? Oh, actually, before you even answer that, I want to go back a little bit, because you mentioned storytelling. Now, what does storytelling actually mean? Because to me, storytelling is sitting with a crowd of kids with a book and just reading from a book, right? So what does that actually mean for our viewers that don't know what it actually all means?
It's definitely very subjective, and sitting around with a book and a group of kids is definitely one form of it. A lot of times, because business is so black and white, checklists and systems and processes, people think that story is only fiction. It's films and novels and television shows and comic books and stuff like that. And that is all story, but that's all story that we make up to hold the interest of someone. The story I'm interested in is just that human relation. It's just sharing something that someone didn't know before in a way where they're like, huh. And you kind of open the show with it saying that, story is this thing where people can relate to you.
Right.
And that's really the magic of it. Taking someone out of their world for a while, showing them the land of, say, like Harry Potter. Those are all magical things, but I think the true magic of storytelling is someone being able to relate to you. So to me, story is communicating information in a way where someone's like, I get that. And that's the biggest win for me.
Okay. And I'm assuming when you do the whole storytelling thing, that is really kind of not only building relationships with people virtually, right? But it also helps with sales when it comes to your business. Is that correct?
100%, because all I'm ever doing is storytelling myself. And again, you say that, and sometimes people are like, you're making stuff up, you're telling stories. It's like, no, again, that's the fiction. We're mostly in the nonfiction world over here in business. It's just relating to people, just simply being open about losing everything last year and starting over. A lot of times people are like, oh, wow, I'm humbled that you shared that with me. That's something that a lot of people might hide or pretend that they just were rebuilding or whatever. Even that itself is a short little story where people start to relate to me as I try and pull story out of them.
Do you know what? And that's so true, because when you mentioned that to me, I was like, holy crap, yeah, that's what I need to hear. Tell me more about that. How the hell did you get over that? Because so many people are going through it, right? And so storytelling to me is what you're saying. It doesn't just have to be about positive. It could be about the negatives that you went through as well.
100%. I'm going to keep it real with you. In the
Mm-hmm.
moment of losing everything, I felt like I was in a shipwreck and I found one plank of wood that was still floating and I was just holding on to it. And the
Right.
storm had finally gone, but the ship was gone and I was floating out at sea. It's not like in that moment I had it all figured out and I was like, okay, we're going to start over. We're going to rebuild. Truthfully, I
Yeah.
had about 12 different friends over a couple months use the word resilience. Like, oh, it's a good thing you're so resilient. I
Mhm.
actually had a couple of people who I'm close with where I'm like, man, I wish people would quit saying that because it was hard to hear at the time that people knew I was going to bounce back. And that comes from my childhood and where I came from and adversity I've overcome before.
Mm.
But I wasn't in a position yet to hear it about myself. And now looking back, I'm like, I know why everyone said that because I am resilient and it did give me an
Right.
opportunity to start over. But when you're in the middle of it, it's real, so
Mm.
I don't expect any of your listeners to be like, I'm in the middle of it, I can just do it. But I do hope I can give just a little bit of light, like you said, at the end of the tunnel, where if you keep
Right.
pushing towards what you really want, all the things that kind of sometimes sound fluffy but are actually true,
Yeah.
grit, determination, resilience, hold on to those things tight if you have them.
Amazing. And it sounds like you really need to get vulnerable with your
Yeah.
audience, right? And just have it, just spill everything out. Just let people know what you've been going through, the good and the bad and the ugly. Because so many people can relate to all of those things. And it isn't just about, oh my God, I live in this fantastic house that I've built and I've got, all these cars and all these things, these, material things. It's about really learning from an individual's experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, 100%. I like to remind people that things like transparency and
Mhm.
vulnerability, they're not these binary things, right? They're spectrums. And someone might read an article, how to be more vulnerable or whatever, and that's dangerous. It's not an on-off switch. If being completely vulnerable on camera is something that you shouldn't do or you're terrified of or whatever, that's okay. That's one end of the spectrum. Back it off until it
Right.
starts to get slightly less uncomfortable and then maybe experiment there, because we all have different tolerances for these things.
Yeah.
But we do have to find, I kind of call it like a cocktail. You have your two,
Mhm.
vodka and orange juice. Some people like a lot more vodka, some people like just a smidge
Right.
of vodka. Find your cocktail, and it might take some experimentation, but find your cocktail and find where you can really thrive. But in doing so, you will be closer to the other end than you are now. And yeah, vulnerability is one of those things that humans relate to. My favorite example of it is when a comedian self-deprecates on stage.
Right.
It's just a genius way to break the ice, get people on your side, have them rooting for you, and by the end you got them in the palm of your hand and a new fan. And that's just one of the powers of storytelling.
I love it. And I love that example. Yeah. Okay. So tell me this, Dan, what actually qualifies you as an expert in this field?
I qualify myself, and I don't say that lightly. I've
Okay.
went through imposter syndrome for
Ah,
my creativity, my larger projects, being on film sets, working with famous people sometimes,
yeah.
getting shout outs from people in the industry. I've had all of my moments.
Who are these famous people that you've worked with? I love
Uh,
them. Are you able to name drop?
no, no, but I can talk about working with Westbrook Productions, which is Will and Jada Pinkett Smith's production company from the
Oh,
West Coast. So I did get to spend a little bit of time with their son, Jaden Smith, when he was doing some work in Flint, Michigan around the water crisis.
oh wow.
Um, so I can't talk about that because that's more of an open documentary that they're putting together and stuff. But yeah, there's been some moments in there. Um, I forgot where I was going. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I took you off
Oh,
track. You
you're all
said
right. Yeah,
celebrities. I was like, who are they?
yeah. I love it. I'm sure it was something just around, storytelling being important and how we all can do it, whether it's, uncomfortable or not. But yeah.
Mm, okay. So are you able to right now maybe teach our audience a simple principle that they can relate to and implement in their business, the storytelling of videos right now?
Yeah, I just remembered what you asked me previously, if it's okay to
Yeah, go
step
for
back
it.
quickly. You asked what gave me authority to be a storyteller, or what makes me an authority on storytelling. And I said I gave myself permission or my own credentials. And that comes from all of those imposter syndrome type of moments. And then just maturing in life, maturing in business, all these different things where it was like, you know what, nothing's new under the sun. I have my own creative take on things. I offer something to the world that wouldn't be there if I wasn't here. So like, I am a storyteller. Now there's some data I could say, I've put in over 10,000 hours of developing story with brands and individuals and stuff. But it really came down to the first time that someone was like, wow, I didn't even know that was inside of me. Thank you so much. And then they portrayed it to the world. And it just strengthened, the relationship between them and their audience. The first time that kind of happened was like, okay, there's something to this. So no degrees, no credentials, just a lot of time, I guess. And I
I love,
appreciate you letting me go back to that.
no, so a lot of life experience, right? And
Maybe too much.
but the point that I would love to kind of stress to the audience is that life experience holds so much weight than a piece of paper, right? Than the certificate that you've got in college, uni, or whatever. Not to say that that doesn't help, most definitely, but you don't need to have those if you've been able to build and learn, in real life, and find out what works and what doesn't work. So I absolutely love that. You've done it. You've been there. You've seen what works, what doesn't work. You've worked with famous people. You've worked with big brands. So clearly what you're doing works, right?
Yeah.
And so going back to the other question, what principle can you teach our audience today that they can relate to and implement in the business right away?
Totally. So one of the things that comes up all the time in story development is that knowledge of the fictional movies, books, stories like that. So what I try and do is take some like developmental storytelling tools that you might use if you're going to write an essay or write a book or something fictional, and walk people through them or give it to them and let them use that tool, but in the world of nonfiction. So one of the great ones, and one I'd love to give away to your audience if they're interested, is the story spine. And it's what Disney and Pixar have used with Toy Story and all those great movies. And it's very, very simple. It's kind of front to back. Once upon a time, until one day something changed. And because of that, and then that led to something else. And because of that, until one day, and then ever since then. And it's just this really, really 30,000 foot view, this really high view of the backbone of a story. And of course, there's character development and shifts and ebbs and flows all throughout that, but it's a great place to start. So a lot of times, because people just as people are stuck in that fiction kind of thought process about what a story is, I'll go to those fiction tools, but then say, hey, you're developing a new product. This product helps someone in this way. We'll call it a widget. That widget's going to be great. You've poured 5 years into making it, but you're trying to tell the world about it. Well, why? Once upon a time, I made a widget. And one day someone saw me using that widget in my garage and was like, wow, I could really use something like that. And because of that, I started thinking really hard about making widgets for other people, and on it goes. And you can take that kind of fictional process and put it to nonfiction. And it's a great starting point to get people like, oh, maybe I could tell better stories.
Interesting. And yeah, I mean, you just made that sound very simple right? Because I can see people kind of racking their brains out and be like, how the hell, where do I start? Where do I end? What do I say in between? Right. And you made it very, very simple process. And also the fact that Pixar, they use this process too. And when I think back and think of like the Disney cartoons that I've been watching and when I was younger, and to be fair, I still watch them. I still watch cartoons. I'm a big fan of cartoons, right? That is exactly the same process that they use. That makes complete sense. And so this strategy has been going on for years and no one's realized it.
Right? Yeah. I love that too, because a lot of times, when people talk about story in their business and maybe it seems new to them because they've never taken this focus or whatever. I always like to shrug and be like, what's great is story's been around for millennia. So many cultures have used story to teach the next generation and to keep their culture alive and all these wonderful things. It's ancient and I didn't invent it. I just use story in a way that maybe some people don't, but nothing's new about it. So it's fun for me because I don't have to convince anyone that storytelling works. I just have
Right.
to convince them to actually try it.
Right. You simplified the process so people don't have to rack their brains out trying to figure it out themselves. Right.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's amazing. And I know our audience today would love to hear a few of your recent success stories, and it would be great to hear some of that.
Yeah, so here's a fun one. There is a really, really cool company called Deep Sentinel, and they have security cameras that have incredible AI technology built into them, but they also have live human Sentinel guards who watch those cameras. So what they end up with a lot of times is part of what they call their stopped series. And that is you see the person maybe coming up to steal the package from the porch or trying to break into the car or whatever. And then you hear the guard come over the speaker that's in that camera on the outside of the house and say, hey, police are on the way. You need to get out of here. You're being filmed. And they run away. And so they have this slew of videos that are crime being stopped in the process. And so we've done some work together. It was really cool and really sophisticated. And then the next batch of work that's lined up to do are actually a series of TikTok videos, because these stopped videos oftentimes are very funny. And it's not funny that crime was almost happening, and it's not funny that it was stopped, I guess, but what transpires sometimes on camera is very, very funny. So we're developing these things that have already done well on their own on like YouTube and stuff into little short TikTok videos, where people can see through humor and through storytelling how great this, sophisticated product is, but in a way that's like entertaining.
Right. Oh,
Yeah, so that's one.
okay. Do you have another to share with us?
That one's probably the most fun. One of my this isn't as exciting as a story, but it's so exciting to me. There's a great company called Search Actions. They do digital marketing and web development, nothing brand new, but they care about story. They found me, and I was able through 1 Minute Media to actually not only set up the CEO, but his small team with all of the 1 Minute Media videos and private membership and all that stuff. So they're using 1 Minute Media as kind of a group. So they all get the right gear. They all get some training on how to shoot great videos on their own with our help a little bit if they need it. And it's really cool because the one product is now helping a small pod of people who are all able to create video content as they go. So that's been fun because leverage is happening. And that's what I always hoped when I took 1 Minute Media and made it digital, is that it could get bigger than me, and that, we could help more people than just one-on-one.
Right. Yes. And like I was saying earlier, like video is so important right now, and it's only going to go in that direction. It's not going to change. People aren't going to stop watching videos. I mean, YouTube is probably one of the most popular platforms, right? Because you get to see how to do things. People always go into how to do this and how to do that. And it actually shows you they like to see it happening in front of them. I know I do. I'm not someone that can read a bunch of words, right, and then try and decipher what that means. I would rather it be on a video showing me where I need to go, what I need to do. It's so much more simple and easier, right? Not time consuming. And do you know what? Is one thing that I have noticed is there's been a few companies that I've been looking into to kind of automate my business. And a lot of them say, if I say to them, oh, you know what, I've got a question about this, they go, oh yeah, read this article. I'm like, really, guys? I didn't get on a call to you or get on a chat to you to read a bunch of freaking articles. I would rather you send me a video to show me, explain to me what happens, or just tell me on the phone, like, stop with these articles. I'm done with that.
It's so powerful. I love that you brought that up yesterday. Yep, it was just yesterday. I have a free community for people, if they're uncomfortable on camera, to start to get comfortable on camera, make videos, put it in the community, and still get feedback and critique, but in a very loving way from a small community who are all there for the same reason. If it's okay to shout it out, it's sandbox.video. And you can sign up for free and go in there. And it's based on circle.so, which is a community software that people buy and use. On the surface, it looks very similar to Facebook. So people are generally pretty familiar with how it works when they use it. And a long time ago, I had a personal account. I was in someone's circle group, and I was trying to get out now because I don't use it anymore and I couldn't figure out how. And so I wrote them and I was like, I've clicked every button. I don't know how to exit this group. I don't want to be here anymore. It wasn't bad. I was just done with it. And it was showing up still on my dashboard. And I got a video from one of their people, and they were inside my account on their end because they have access on their end as the company. And it was just him in a circle and the screen. He's like, all right, Dan, what you want to do is come over here, click on that. You'll see this is revealed. It is at the bottom, but if you go all the way to the bottom and click that, you should be all good. And boom, I got my own like 30-second tutorial from them in an email. And I was like, that even that little thing was a story. That told me the story that you care. It told me the story I made the right choice using your software and that I can get my problems fixed in the future. And it told me the story of how in the heck to get out of that group. So it is powerful. Video it ain't going anywhere. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Definitely. Well, thank you for that. Before we end this episode, I would love to ask you a final question, because I know loads of people are going to be asking or thinking, where the hell do I find him? Where do I go for more support? So where can people go if they want to speak with you, get more additional free support, look at your packages? Where can they go to find you, Dan?
Yeah, so I'll give you a couple of things. The first one, and I've done this on purpose, is if you look up Antipreneur, just like entrepreneur, but Antipreneur, if anyone's watching, you'll find me because I'm everywhere. So that's a quick way. If you can't remember anything else I say, Antipreneur, I remember that and type it in, you'll find me. I've tried to make it real easy. I'm theantipreneur.com/link stack. So like a stack of links, and that's exactly what it is. It's all my stuff in one spot. So I'm theantipreneur.com/link stack. And my email's on there. I don't hide from anyone. I work directly with people. I try and also, which I would like to do for your audience, if that's okay, give away a couple, free strategy sessions if someone's listening to a certain show, because most of the time it's just getting started and understanding that you can give yourself permission to get on camera and you can give yourself permission to tell great stories. And that's actually what I'm helping people do. There's the technical, there's the development, but really my whole job is just getting people to give themselves permissions to tell a great story.
Awesome. And guys, I just want to let you know that all the links that Dan has mentioned, they will be in the show notes. So if you missed it while you're listening or watching this episode, go down below and you'll be able to see the links there. Thank you so much, Dan. And yeah, I mean, having those freebies, if people want to go find Dan, go make sure you go check out what he does. Get those freebies, guys, right? Learn from Dan, learn from what he's been showing these famous people and these huge companies. Go and find him, definitely, and figure out how you can implement this in your business. And one more question before we do end. Why Antipreneur? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I'm an old school vintage kind of guy. I like denim and cotton and really well made boots. I like things made of steel and things that last 100 years. And in late 2017, I was just making a piece of video content, kind of ranting to my audience a little bit. And I was like, everyone's calling themselves an entrepreneur. It's this trendy term now. And it used to be, if you said entrepreneur, someone would go, oh, you don't have a job, huh? And now you say you're an entrepreneur and people are like, oh yeah, me too. And it's like, oh, everyone's an entrepreneur now. So in this rant, I was like, business principles still matter, and that's the foundation, but what you build on top of it is yours, not someone else's. They can't tell you they have a blueprint or a magic pill or a silver bullet, or if you do this, you'll get a Lamborghini too. You know what? I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an antipreneur. And it just came from frustration and wanting to differentiate myself a little bit. Now, antipreneur is not anti-entrepreneurship by any means. It's quite the opposite, but that's kind of where it was born. And then, like many things do, my audience was like, that's awesome. We like that. You should keep saying that. And it kind of stuck. So the following year when I launched my podcast, I'm like, well, I'm just going to call it the Antipreneur Show because I'm lazy and I don't want to go find a better name. And it's just kind of snowballed from there. And now it's just kind of my personal brand and moniker, that sort of thing.
Okay, awesome. I love that. I had to answer that question because I know there's probably other people think antipreneur. He's a business person and he's anti. Like it, so I had to get more clarification on that. Thank you for that, Dan. It was amazing to have you on this show. I've loved it. You've given so many different nuggets about being on video, storytelling, why it's important. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was fun, and I'm not just saying that. I knew when we met before the show that it was going to be fun, and it sure was.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your time and listening to Uncensored Society Podcast. All resources mentioned throughout the episode will be added to the show notes, and you'll be able to find them at the bottom as you scroll down. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe and leave a review in iTunes. Thank you once again.